I really want to get right into it and show that I was there 2014. As you can see here, the scaffolding is on the obelisk. As I said, I was called here. I have been not back into New York, into this area here for 33 years, since 1981. And when I went to New York, going to Egypt, I didn't make it here because of my time. But I knew that because I was going back through New York to go to Egypt, that I was stepping back in time. I was going back a path. And when I moved to a place called Park Central in Orlando, Florida, Central Park kept coming to me, but in reverse. Grand Central Parkway was one of the streets around it. So I kept referencing. And there was also a nightclub, adult club here called Cleo's. And where I was at, a place called Westbrook, with a sign, and their colors are orange or yellow and green, which is the sun and the earth. And I was across the street from this Cleo's with the two Sphinx on top of the building, which is referencing back to the great Sphinx, Haramakhet, showing the dream stella. So with all that going on and on from 2012 and having my experiences through there, going to places such as the Mall at Millennia, which I'll show you, that came from the Great Pyramid, and going to different places that I can reference back to this. But after 2 years of that, I ended up having to go to New York, and I went in August, which was a perfect time because of the weather was real nice, and I got to visit some friends in Brooklyn and see some family. And when I was there, I made sure that I had to go see this. That was my main reason why I did go to New York, but I did go to see my friends and family, but this was what was pulling me back. So I couldn't not forget why I was here. So this is what happened. I ended up going here on August 23rd, 2014. In the afternoon, I thought the museum was closed. I was just coming to videotape this. Then I found out the museum was open. But also, on that day, August 23rd, on a Saturday, was also the same time of the year, the days, from 1969, when it all began for me as a child, 7 years old, when the beans used to come through my room. This was the same year, the same time, the same day that my mother married my stepfather, that we ended up moving to Florida. We had no relatives in Florida. My mother's side of the family came from Puerto Rico, but they came from France. They were in northern Africa. They had to come from North Africa. They came as pirates. They were pirates or pirateers. And they came here, first to Cuba, then to Puerto Rico, with gold that they had buried but never found again. So that's a story that I was told from my aunt and my great-grandfather, who built the house on Commander Avenue. It all goes back to there. So I knew that hearing the story and knowing what's going on here, I just had to stick to my gut and stay on it. And that sticking to my gut is what led me to go to New York on this day, which was also around Marcus Garvey's birthday. There was Harlem Week. So there was a lot of good things going on when I got there. And I got to experience a lot.
Park. New York, and behind the Metropolitan Museum of Art, modern art itself. Here we have the obelisk itself, which is an Egyptian obelisk from the 18th dynasty. Tutmosis III was giving to Julius Caesar, whereas for Julius Caesar from Augustus.
Which I had that wrong itself, because it was Augustus who turned it over. And there was no good to come of that. Because one, that they didn't respect Egypt. They were jealous of Egypt. And this is where everything began to explode. Even going back to the fact that, as I mentioned, Cleopatra, Cleos, which was the end of Egypt. The Ptolemaic dynasty was not Egyptian. But a lot of people like to include it as an Egyptian Kemetic dynasty. This is when everything turned upside down.
And this is what I was saying earlier about the connection between Central Park and the Park Central and the experience itself in Orlando. Whereas the 18th dynasty, when the billboard sign appeared, was King Tutmosis, his great-grandfather, same dynasty. Now, all this was connected. Now, I've been to Egypt, but everything kept pointing back to Central Park the last time I was here, which is not.
Now, you see, I'm saying this. I don't have nobody around me. I'm not being recorded. I'm not being televised. Nobody's sitting around and following me and I'm acting out something. This is something that I knew that I had to go and do at this time. And the specific time being there, it was all no coincidence. It was definitely a purpose, and the time point was actually accurate. And this is why I know that when I saw this program and they explained that not a lot of people know, well, I know because it knew me. And I remember one experience was when I went to Egypt and I went to Aswan, and I seen the dam that they created, the lake that they buried the area at Aswan. And I know that when I walked into the museum, I saw all of the artifacts, some of the structures that they had that were brought all the way to Central Park. And I was wondering, all those years from that time, where did they go? What did they do with them? And so when I walked into Central Park and I walked into the museum on that Saturday after 6, and I walked and I seen the glass enclosure and I saw where it came from, it was like the answer of all those years that I was wondering what happened to those structures that were submerged. What they submerged, they were brought into New York.
96th Street, when I lived here. This has been 33 years. Here again, it's 33 years from the time of coming through Central Park in 1981. This happened to be now, 33 years later, that I'm here.
You see, the project will be completed in fall 2014. It's 2014 at this moment. That moment in time was 2014. The exact date was August 23rd, 2014.
And as you see, they call this thing Cleopatra's Needle, which Cleopatra had nothing to do with the construction of these obelisks, which in Orlando, you'll see these now in the millennium area, where I sat at Resurrection. Washington, D.C., you have the Washington Monument, which is 555, which I said was connected to the layout in Orlando.
When I say that they was connected to the layout in Orlando, the houses, 5312, 5320, 5301. Now, if you take the 5 off each one, you got 555. And it's represented the belt of the Orion, which connects to the 555 of the Washington Obelisk. Which I said, the Washington Obelisk goes back to connecting to Washington, where I grew up on Washington Avenue, turned into Commander Avenue, which that's interchangeable, saying a commander in Washington, commander-in-chief. The neighborhood of the area was called Wyandanch, Chief Wyandanch. So you would have commander-in-chief. So at that point, looking back, it all made sense.
Here we have a 3,500-year-old obelisk with the writings on it, which is not stone, the spirit stone itself, speaking, connecting, bringing me back to this point, to come see for myself, to hear me talk in front of this obelisk, which I say is connected to the experience of the Stargate. And in a little bit, I'm going to show you a connection that kind of confirms what I'm saying.
I'm going to show you just how what I mentioned, the Stargate, how real it is. And you're going to see a example of it. Maybe a telltale sign that this had to do with the Stargate. These weren't just stones carved to make things look nice. These were actually devices. This is why they carry them around the world. This is why most people who got them are successful as far as their countries. That's why you have them in England, France, United States. You even have one in St. Peter's Square. All these places have something that they are either a superpower or they have some economic advantage of most people around the world. That's no coincidence.
Which is not too far from here. Here it is. Right now it's going under some restoration. Same thing that happened with the Washington Monument. They did some restoration work and they had a scaffold around it for years. So at this point in time,
see, when you pay attention and you follow your gut, your instinct, you understand that you're on point. Don't let nobody take you off guard. I don't have a lot of support people following, asking me, how's it going? Are you still doing this? How do you come? Do you come up with anything else? Anything new? No, I don't have that. I stay on it myself. Because if I don't, then I'll just fall and drink the Kool-Aid like everybody else. Fall into all the other little nonsense thing, who's coming up, what team is going to be playing, what sports or season it is. That's not important. Those are distractions. Menticide. That's what we're dealing with. A mass case of menticide. They can tell you stuff. We're in a world of make-believe. Make you believe you can be this. You can be a bird. You can be a dog if you want it. It's all up to you. That's the type of world we're living in. Be what you want to be. But be a person. Be real. That's anything else but be real.
it's being worked on. So this is about as close as I can get. It's a lot closer than I was able to get prior to this. Again, Central Park. I knew there was a reason why I had to come back and come here for my vacation. 2014, this day, August 23rd. which is the same day that the sign was erected from the vision, from the experience in 1996, visiting 96th Street. 33 years ago since then, here I am, connecting this obelisk back to the experience in Orlando, 1996, 96th Street, Egyptian Obelisk, Kemetic, spiritual connection, going to Egypt, coming home from Egypt, the three houses, the Orion, 18th dynasty, repeatedly, Sun Trust, the sun rays, Akhenaten, all it is connected. Back to here. I think these are just stones and writings for no reason. Place that I grew up, lived, connecting to this, connecting to the fact that Augusta, dealing with St. Augustine, Florida, where the first settlers, European settlers came to the United States, were connected St. Augustine as to Augusta. This is connected to Augusta, connected to Orlando, the Three Lakes, Dade Pyramids, all connecting to this one thing. Back to back, unbroken chain. Florida, the lotus flower. New York, Empire State. Macy's, New York. Bloomingdale's, New York. The Millennium Mall, the two anchors. The object I said looks like the mall itself. All is connected. Bloomingdale's, founded in New York. Macy's, founded in New York. The obelisk is all around the Millennium area. Back to this. Back to what I was saying, the Washington Monument. All of these connected. No unbroken chain. From birth all the way. Growing up on Commander Avenue, George Washington, Washington Avenue. Back to Commander-in-Chief, Washington, D.C.